Hey, this is the Daily Overpass. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today I want to talk about why you should always add a time buffer onto the end of all of your projects. Okay, I was talking with someone recently about the launch of their app. So they had like a release date at the end of February. They announced it to everybody that they were going to have this big launch, but there was some trouble with the developers and they had to push that launch back and had to notify everybody that the release was going to be delayed, right? And this is something I don't really do very much personally. I've never done an app launch where I did a big announcement or anything like that. For me, I'm just really kind of lazy. You know, we develop the app when it's ready, gets approved and everything, we just put it live. This is for my own apps, but I have a lot of clients where we have this kind of problem, where we have deadlines, right? So we have client projects. A lot of times it's just sort of the deadline is we promise it at a certain date and we need to deliver it at a certain date. And there's other times where it's for an event or you know, they publish some sort of release date and it gets a lot more stressful, and there's pluses and minuses to that if you have that set deadline. So like we do some for like events. So we know that we have this event coming up and we know that the app has to be ready by this date, so we give enough time for Apple to approve it, so we get everything out there, we get enough time for everybody to test it, everything like that. So like this person who was telling me about the release dates getting pushed, what we try to do is manage the expectations of the development. So like if it's one of the ones where I get some other developers to work on it for me, one of the things I'll do is I'll make sure that we have plenty of time to release something. So unlike what the person was telling me where they had to push back the release and make this big announcement, all that kind of stuff. And it's common sense, right? It reminds me when I was a web developer working in a small company, and I had a project manager, and he came to me and he asked me for a quote on how long something would take, and I told him it'd take about 5 days, right? And he says, "Are you confident in that 5 days?" And I said, "Actually, I think it's going to be like 3 days, but I want to give you 5 days. I just want to say 5 days just in case something goes wrong, because something always goes wrong. Something, you just want to make sure you have that buffer. I'm not saying you charge the 5 days. I'm just saying you make sure that you have that leeway in case your computer crashes, in case something goes completely wrong, in case you get sick. Who knows? You always need to make sure that you don't do the deadlines about the actual time that you think it's going to be." So the project manager said to me, most project managers that I've worked with, and I'm not a big fan of project managers because of this, they'll say, 5 days, I don't know why it would take you 5 days to do this, even though they don't know any of the code or how anything works. They're just trying to bargain me down, right? Which is really annoying because they don't know anything about anything. But so even when I told him it was 3 days, he did 5 days, he goes, "Okay, that sounds good," right? And he said, so what happens is you tell me 5 days, I tell them 7 days, and then they tell the further on people 9 days, and it just it goes up, escalates and escalates and escalates, which sounded ridiculous to me at the time, but it does make a lot of sense, right? With some clients, when we have an event and we have a certain amount of time to get something done, not to say anything bad about them, but sometimes they'll see that as an opportunity. Like if we deliver something 10 days early, they'll see that as an opportunity to add 10 days of changes. And that's one of the benefits of having a release, like an event or a date that you cannot miss, is because you deliver that thing on time and eventually scope creep stops. Everybody realizes it has to get done at that certain time. And sometimes when you release something, you have to release it at the right time so that it doesn't encourage scope creep. So they're not looking at, so like say you deliver something 10 days early and they look at it for 3 days and go, we've been talking here in the office, and that's just, that everything's gone wrong. Whatever follows that, whatever follows, we've been talking here in the office, or I've been showing this to my friends, and that means there's going to be some changes, some scope creep going on. So a lot of the times we make sure we have everything ready here with enough time that we could check everything, do all the testing locally. So like if I have a developer doing it, if they tell me it's going to be done by the end of February, then I'm going to say, I'll tell the client it'll be the mid-March or the end of March, or depending on how big the project is, right? And then if they have an ongoing client, then they can tell them that too, right? And this makes perfect sense, especially when you're dealing with big projects. You need to take the stress out of the situation. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a launch, because that makes sense. I mean, having that end date, you definitely need to have that. Otherwise, you'd be like me and you'd never get anything done on time, right? And also, never tell the developer what the real end date is. because then they'll see that as permission to slip, because they might slip anyway, right? But you need to have that deadline in place. And if they come to you and say, I'm really sorry, we're going to be 5 days late, you go, okay, all right, but you have that buffer in place, but you don't want them to know what the kind of buffer you have. And it sounds sneaky, and it sounds kind of like you don't trust the developers, but no, you do. I can tell you, as a developer, when I've been working on something and I've just been I need to have it done by this Friday, and I got everything, and then it's like Friday afternoon, it's Friday evening, and I'm like, oh my God, this is not going to happen. And then somebody comes up to you and says, look, I'll give you a couple more days, right? Because they have that buffer in place. It's like they have a little bit of money left in the bank, almost like they say, I'll bail you out. Go home, have a good weekend. Let's look at this on Monday. Let's try to get it done by Tuesday. And that is the best feeling in the world, where you're just like, oh, thanks so much, because your deadline, you have a little bit of leeway there. Because if I knew that I had till Tuesday, I could tell you what, I would do it till Tuesday, right? What is it called? It's called Parkinson's Law. Work expands to fit the time that you give it. This is why when you get a project, if you say, I'm going to give myself 2 hours to do this, I'm going to give myself half a day to do this, I'm going to give myself whatever to do this, as opposed to, I'll get this done one of these days, or I'll work on this, and it takes as long as it takes. Well, then you just take as long as it takes. I was talking with somebody recently about this. I'm segueing a little bit. And they were talking about how they had 2 developers or designers. They took, one of them was really fast, one of them was really slow. So wondering if the really slow person was trying to cheat him. And I said, look, some people just work that way. Some people they're just slower than others. I mean, I've been quoting on jobs in the past for like at investment banks where I thought, I think this will take 3 days. But it's not me doing it, so I'm gonna tell them the developer that's doing. I'm gonna give him 6 days, and I go to the developer and say, we're gonna give you 6 days for this little project, and he goes, that's a bit ambitious, isn't it? Right? We all have different expectations, and you have different mindsets. And by the way, never trust anyone who says it will take 20 minutes. It might take 20 minutes, but then that's when the computer freaks out, or the file system is slow, or there's a hard drive crash, or there's a blackout, or something bad happens, and then he's telling you why he didn't get it done in 20 minutes. Right? This is one of the things you learn early on. I remember I used to try to impress everyone with how quick I gave the time scales. How long will this take you? That'll take me 1 hour only, right? Or that would take me 20 minutes. Oh, it's a 5-minute job, right? And and then they'll come back in 5 minutes or 7 minutes, and you're like, oh, I'm just bringing up the screen now, right? It just they don't appreciate that. Whereas if I tell them, if I think it's going to take 5 minutes, and I say give me an hour, then even if it does take me 5 minutes, then I have plenty of time to make sure everything goes right, and I can test everything. I know usually I don't do projects that fast, or of that small a duration, right? The danger is Parkinson's Law. Once I know in my head that I have an hour, then I might think I'll just take a bit more time on this, or I'll do this in 55 minutes from now, which it just happens. So anyway, and you see this with movies too. Movies don't just film all the way up until the end. They have test screenings. They make sure they have it in the can early, so they can do test screenings, make any changes if they need to, all that kind of stuff before their big launch releases. So anyway, rambling on, loads here today. Sorry about that. So yeah, I mean, for those of you who've had projects with like a hard deadline, and when I mean hard deadline, I don't mean like somebody's gonna get angry if you miss it. I mean like they publish it everywhere. It has to be done by that time. If it doesn't release, then people are walking around without apps at an event, or they don't have something. Or I had one place. I was working in an investment bank, and we had this big website rollout. And for some reason, somebody in the marketing department decided they would put posters up all over the bank saying, new website coming out on this date, right? And it was like the date that we had told them it was going to be done, right? It was like there was no wiggle room there at all. So as soon as they saw it, or were like in the last few days of development, they started saying, I don't know if I like this font, or can we move this over here? It was too late. I mean, we didn't have any wiggle room, and their expectation was we should just work all night. So anyway, the point of this long ramble today is, make sure you give a buffer when you're quoting for clients. Make sure that the time you think you need to develop, or if you have developers that you work with, the time that they give you is not the time that you give your clients, and that you give yourself a little bit of wiggle room there. Put a little bit of time margin in, so that you can get out of those kind of situations. At least that's my experience. You might disagree with me, but we'll see. Anyway, that's it for today. You know what? It's Friday, but I'm gonna do one tomorrow. I'm gonna do a Saturday one. You know, talk a few days ago about, you know, why do you do it every day if not a lot of people watch? Damn it, we're gonna do a Saturday one tomorrow. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.